Debate on Chinese social media over the origin of the coronavirus. Does the novel coronavirus originate in China or the US? New coronavirus infection numbers released by Chinese authorities have been seeing a dramatic drop, but internal documents say otherwise. Coronavirus live updates. 4 more die in the Seattle area, bringing the US death toll to 6. President Trump asks labs to speed up vaccination creation, and the Pentagon says it's taking every precaution to keep US troops safe.
Welcome to China in Focus. I'm your host, Tiffany Meyer. In Beijing, the wartime status has not been lifted yet. We obtained photos from February 29th showing the situation in Beijing. Here is a famous food market. The usually bustling streets are now empty with barely a soul around. Here's a picture before the wartime status was implemented. Restaurants and shops are closed. Here's a restaurant with a sign hung up in its window. It says they've been closed since January 26 and there is no set date for when it will reopen. Only a few small markets are still open, like this one. And here is a commercial street in Beijing. The entrance is blocked off and anyone coming and going must show identification. And as for basic necessities and food, many can only get them through delivery options. Even the metro station is empty with only a guard seen patrolling. Even on the train, there are very few passengers. Here's one person sporting a face mask and shades, and even has his shoes wrapped in plastic bags. Inside China, there is almost only positive information about the situation of the coronavirus outbreak on Chinese social media. This after a new rule was introduced on March 1st, released by the Cyberspace Administration of China in the regulations on the ecological governance of network information. One of the so-called illegal behaviors is spreading improper comments on the natural catastrophe. In other words, it's now officially a crime to spread so-called rumors on social media inside China. Over the weekend, a lot of social media accounts on Weibo and WeChat were blocked. And on January 25th, Chinese authorities issued an announcement on special treatment of rumors related to the coronavirus pneumonia. The announcement said the various types of online rumors and hearsay continue to stimulate people's panic, threatening people who release so-called rumors with permanent social media bans and saying they can be sentenced to up to 7 years in prison. Does the novel coronavirus originate in China or the US? This is a question that is spreading on Chinese social media. Last week, the leader of the high-level expert group of the National Health Commission of the Chinese Communist Party said at a press conference that the coronavirus does not necessarily originate from China. A Chinese university also published a research paper on a Chinese platform for publishing papers from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, saying that the 2 oldest virus samples are from the first case of another city in China and the first case in the USA. A Taiwanese politician from a party which is known to be close to the Chinese Communist Party mentioned this research on a talk show and tied it to the damage done to the lungs with vaping and the number of deaths by flu in the US. He drew the conclusion that the coronavirus originated in the US. And a separate one, a report from CNN titled "CDC Confirms First Corona Case of Unknown Origin in U.S." was translated by a netizen in China into USA CDC admitted the first novel coronavirus originated in the U.S. That post also went viral. A source with relatives in China got a message from a family member asking if she is still able to buy face masks in the U.S. The family member said the USA could be the origin of the coronavirus, warning her to pay attention to it and not to go to places with many people. Chinese experts have already refuted the claim the virus started in the U.S. A researcher in China from Lanzhou University opposed the opinion that the virus is from the USA. He said it is very easy to diagnose the flu in America, and it is less likely that the coronavirus would be misdiagnosed as the flu. And outside China, coronavirus cases continue to rise. In Iran, health authorities on Monday announced 523 new infections and 12 new deaths, giving a total of 1,501 cases and 66 fatalities. Among the victims was Mohammed Mirmohammadi, a member of the Expediency Council. That's according to Iranian state media. And how are world leaders reacting to the coronavirus outbreak? Here are two leading by example with a clever new way to give handshakes, or rather not. Here is Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel and German Interior Minister Horst Seehofer foregoing the customary handshake amid the coronavirus outbreak. And a correction. We previously reported on the difference between the novel coronavirus and SARS. SARS can infect the respiratory system, liver, spleen, lymphatic tissues, among others. China says its number of new virus cases has been in steady decline after the country's leader ordered people to go back to work. But internal documents say otherwise. They show one province has been underreporting cases. NTD's Juliet Song has the story.
Since February 27th, Shanghai has reported 0 new coronavirus infections, but one expert is casting doubt on the numbers. It can be expected that there must be infected people entering the region, owing to the large number of people coming and going. If some of them have the disease but don't know, or if authorities don't catch the cases as they enter the region, there's cause for concern. Some say this could be why the reported number has stayed at 0. Wen Hong says the more cases that are detected as they come into the city, the safer Shanghai is. After February 3rd, Chinese leader Xi Jinping held 4 high-level political meetings in less than 4 weeks, urging citizens to go back to work. Since then, the official number of new infections in and outside of Hubei has been dropping dramatically, with many provinces even reporting no increase on some days. But internal documents obtained by NTD tell a different story. According to the internal data, China's second most populous province has been underreporting its new cases. On February 23rd, Shandong reported 1 new infection, but an internal report by the Shandong Center for Disease Control and Prevention shows 43 tested positive. The next day, Shandong authorities reported 0 new infections, but in reality, 47 were confirmed. In Henan province, a doctor died of cardiac arrest after working almost 40 days non-stop, treating coronavirus patients. The same day he died, local media reported that there were no new infections in the past 24 days, that confirmed patients had recovered, and that suspected cases and close contacts had also tested negative. Reporting by Juliet Song, NTD News, New York.
On Capitol Hill, President Trump is asking U.S. labs to expedite the development of a coronavirus vaccine. At the same time, the Pentagon says it's taking every precaution to safeguard U.S. troops.
President Trump is asking labs and research centers to speed up the creation of a coronavirus vaccine. Trump voiced the request during a White House press briefing on Monday.
Well, we've asked them to accelerate whatever they're doing in terms of a vaccine. Absolutely.
Army General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, echoed the statement from the Pentagon. He said U.S. military labs are working very consistently.
Not only in that vaccine, but all kinds of things. So the military labs have all kinds of capability to do that, and working in direct support of the Health and Human Services to do that.
The general emphasized that the military looks at and is planning for a wide variety of possible scenarios. Likewise, Defense Secretary Mark Esper said the Pentagon is taking all necessary precautions to ensure the safety of U.S. forces.
My number one priority remains to protect our forces and their families. Second, to safeguard our mission capabilities. And third, to support the interagency whole-of-government approach.
Back at the White House, Trump offered reassurance to those attending or that have attended his campaign rallies. His comment came after one reporter asked him if he thinks it's safe to hold campaign rallies during the outbreak.
But do you think it's safe? Are you worried at all?
I think it's very safe, yeah.
He also cited the large number of campaign rallies being hosted by his Democratic rivals in the 2020 election.
4 more coronavirus deaths were reported in Washington state today. That means the U.S. now has 6 deaths in total. Vice President Mike Pence is overseeing the government's response to the virus. He spoke to reporters late this evening.
Despite today's sad news, let's be clear, the risk to the American people of the coronavirus remains low, according to all of the experts that we're working with across the government.
Pence's coronavirus task force is meeting daily. Today it met with governors from 50 states and 3 territories. The government is implementing travel screening for high-risk countries. All passengers in Italy and South Korea will be screened before departing for the U.S. The new procedure should be in place by tomorrow. Dr. Deborah Birx has now joined the task force. She is the U.S. leader for combating HIV/AIDS globally. The vice president called her a scientist. She's a physician with 3 decades of public health expertise.
And the first case of the coronavirus is confirmed in New York. The woman tested positive after returning to Manhattan from a visit to Iran. However, despite her test results, the governor says the facts should defeat any fear New Yorkers may have.
Since her return from Iran, a woman in her 30s has quarantined herself at home with her husband having tested positive for coronavirus. This is the first confirmed case in New York. However, no hospitalization was necessary, and Governor Cuomo said on Monday that this is not the time to panic.
And the facts, once you know the facts, once you know the reality, it is reassuring. And we should relax, because that's what's dictated by the reality of the situation.
The governor said on Sunday the risk level remains low in the state, but he added that officials would check on the infected woman's driver and the passengers who were aboard her flight back to the U.S. The mayor of New York City said it wasn't a surprise that the virus made its way to the city.
Bluntly, what has been the advantage here in New York, we've kind of been the anti-China in this sense, has been to say from the beginning, it's coming here.
But are people worried? We spoke to a few who said yes and no.
Everyone's super cautious if they have like a cough or something. So if they did have it, then if they had something, they would go to the doctor.
So again, you're not worried?
No.
Oh my God, of course I'm worried because I'm old and I'm vulnerable to this kind of disease.
For precaution, the governor said he'll implement new cleaning measures for schools and public transportation, so these areas may smell a little more like bleach. Cuomo said he'll also prepare hospitals across the state to test for coronavirus. In the end, the state plans to be able to test up to 1,000 people per day. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
And in France, the world-famous Louvre Museum closed its doors on Sunday, prompted by the spread of the coronavirus. Museum officials made the call amid fears that the flow of tourists from around the world could cause contamination.
Sunday morning, a short statement from the Louvre announced the museum would close for the morning. A staff meeting about virus prevention efforts was held before the announcement. Later on, they announced the museum would be closed for the day. The shutdown of the world's most popular museum follows the French government's decision on Saturday to ban indoor public gatherings of more than 5,000 people. The Louvre welcomes tens of thousands daily in Paris, and almost 3/4 of its 9.6 million visitors last year visited from abroad. Union official Christian Galani says the Louvre is a confined space that sees a large number of people daily.
In these conditions, you can understand the concern of some people and why some demonstrations are canceled. Meanwhile, buildings that people work in are not closed by law, although they are governed by the same closure criteria as other buildings.
Louvre staff members expressed concern that they might be in danger of contamination. Likewise, fears are rising after museum workers from northern Italy came to collect works by Leonardo da Vinci that were loaned for a major exhibition. Italy, with over 1,100 coronavirus cases and 29 deaths, has become the epicenter of the outbreak in Europe. Another meeting about virus prevention at the Louvre is scheduled for Monday between union representatives and the museum's management.
Experts gathering at CPAC to discuss China's new weapons of war took a closer look at how the Chinese regime is weaponizing big data, AI, and 5G in its bid for more power.
At the Conservative Political Action Conference, experts discussing how the Chinese regime weaponizes technology to mistreat its own people and try to become the world's leading superpower. American columnist and author Gordon Chang leading the conversation.
Today we will talk about big data, AI, 5G, and China's challenge to the world.
The State Department says in recent years the Chinese regime has detained around 1 million Uyghur Muslims in internment camps. Recent reports tell of the regime destroying documents to cover up its mass detention. Former Attorney General saying the regime now uses technology to oppress its people.
It is to use facial recognition software against the Uyghurs. It is to use data analytics against their people to, again, to consolidate their power in a centrally controlled government. What do we use technology for? Our economy, to expand opportunity and prosperity.
The Chinese language Epoch Times reported some people in mainland China said the police enter villages, homes, and schools to collect DNA data. Chang saying China will probably not be willing to honor standards set on managing AI because they have already failed to comply with human genetic research standards.
Because they haven't been willing to do that, for instance, on genetic research on humans. They have violated all of those standards, and we've got to be very worried what comes out of China.
The Human Rights Watch reported in 2017 that the Chinese regime was collecting DNA samples from all residents in the Xinjiang region between 12 and 65 years old. And in 2015, a Chinese security bureau in Xinjiang planned to buy U.S. technology to analyze DNA and add that information to a national database. American scientific company Thermo Fisher announced last year that it will no longer sell genetic sequencers in Xinjiang after facing criticism that its products aid state surveillance and enable human rights abuses.
Let's set up a joint venture.
A national security expert saying the Chinese regime launders technology from medium and small businesses by setting up joint ventures with them.
They set up the joint venture, they get the technology, they duplicate it, they set up a duplicate Chinese company, and they undersell you and you're dead.
A Department of Justice report in 2018 states that China was involved in 90% of cases of alleged economic espionage and 2/3 of trade secret theft cases from 2011 to 2018. A U.S. representative from Washington saying the U.S. needs to lead in AI and 5G and have allies around the world follow its leadership instead of the aggressive Chinese regime.
The one that is leading the world. Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.